Good morning, students. Today we'll start with our fifth unit, HCI design rules, guidelines, and evaluation. So, in this we cover the principle to support the usability. So, principle to support the usability. So, what is this? So, you see, what is the general overview of this principle to support the usability? So, designing for utmost usability is aim of interactive system design. Right? So design rules are a mechanism for controlling the space of alternative, preventing a designer from following design options that would be likely to guide to an unusable system. Design rules would be most efficient if they could be accepted in the earlier stages of the life cycle, such as the requirement specification and architecture design, when the space of the probability design is still very large. So the most conceptual design rules are general principles, which can be useful to design of an interactive system in order to encourage its usability. Principle can provide the repeatability which paradigms in themselves cannot provide. So this principle to support usability. The principles are divided into three main categories: learnability, flexibility, and robustness. So we'll see one by one. So in learnability with which new user can commence efficient interaction and accomplish the maximal performance. You can say for learnability, consider the aspect of the interactive system that allows learner to understand how to use its primarily and then how to achieve the maximum level of performance. So there are specific principles that support the learnability, that is predictability, synthesizability, familiarity, consistency, and generalizability. So we will see one by one what is this predictability. Predictability of interactive system means that user awareness of interaction history is adequate to decide the result of his future interaction with it. The awareness can be limited to the presently perceivable information so that the user need not memorize anything other than what is presently observable. Predictability of the interactive system is distinguished from deterministic behavior of the computer system alone. Predictability is user-centered model. It is a deterministic action from the viewpoint of the user. It is not sufficient for behavior of the computer system to be determined entirely from its state, as the user must be capable to take the benefit to the determinism. For example, a familiar mathematical puzzle would be present you with a series of three or more numbers and ask you what would be the subsequent number of the series. The idea of predictability deals with the user's capability to determine the outcomes of the operation on the system. Another type of predictability has to do with the user's capability to know which operations can be carried out. Operation visibility refers to how the user is shown the accessibility of operations that can be performed next. The next, synthesizability. In building up some kind of predictive model of the system performance, it is important for the user to assess the consequences of earlier interaction in order to formulate a model of performance of the system. Synthesis, therefore, is a capability of the user to assess the effect of past operation on the present state. Principle of honesty, it relates to the capability of the user interface to provide an apparent and informative account of such change. In the best of situation, this notification can come immediately, requiring no further interaction commenced by the user. At the very least, the notification should be emerge eventually after clear user directives to make the change observable. The good example of the difference between immediacy and eventuality can be seen in the judgment between a command language interface and visual text of interface for a file management system. You have moved a file from one directory to another. Principle of honesty means after moving the file to its new location in the file system, you are then capable to find out its new whereabouts. In command language system, you would typically have to memorize the destination directory and then ask to see the stuffing of the directory in order to verify the file has been moved. In visual desktop interface, visual representation, or you can say icon of the file is dragged from its original directory and placed in its destination directory where it's remain visible. Next, familiarity. For a new user, the familiarity of interactive system means the correlation between the user's existent awareness and the awareness required for the effective interaction. For example, when the word processors were originally introduced, the correlation between the word processor and the typewriter was anticipated to make the new technology more immediately accessible to those who had little experience with the former but lot of experience with the latter. The next, generalizability. The generalizability of an interactive system support this activity, leading to a more complete predictive model of the system for the user. Generalizability can be applied to the condition in which the user want to relate a knowledge that helps attain one particular goal to the another situation where the goal is in some way similar. Generalizability can be seen as a type of a consistency. Generalization can arise within a single application or across a variety of applications. For example, in a graphical drawing package that represents a circle as a constraint form of ellipse can generalize a square can be drawn as a constraint rectangle. The next, consistency. So consistency relates to similarity in behavior arising from the related situation or like a task objectives. Consistency is possibly the most widely mentioned principle in the literature on user interface design. Consistency is not only a property of interactive system that is either satisfied or not satisfied. Instead, consistency must be useful relative to something. It is applied in command naming or in command argument invocations. Consistency can be described in terms of the form of input expression or output response with respect to the meaning of action in some abstract model of the system. For example, before the introduction of arrow key, some word processor used the interactive positions of keys on the keyboard to show a directionality for operations. For example, to move one character to the left, right, up, or down. The abstract model for display-based control is two-dimensional plane. So the user would be considered of a certain classes of operations in terms of action, up, down, left, or right, in the plane of the display. Operation that required directional information such as moving within the text or deleting several units of text could be expressed by using some set of keys on the keyboard that form a pattern consistent with up, down, left, and right. So this is the predictability to support, or we can say that these are the principles to support the usability. So in short, what is this predictability? Predictability is a support for user to find out the outcomes of a futures based on the past interaction history. What is synthesizability? Support for the user to review the effect of past operation on the current state. What is the familiarity? The extent to which user awareness and experience in other real world or computer-based domain can be useful when the interacting with the new system. What is the generalizability? Support for the user to extend the knowledge of a specific interaction within and across application to similar situation. Consistency, a similarity in input-output behavior occurring from analogous situation or analogous task object. So in the next lecture, we'll see the remaining, that is flexibility and robustness.